Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duckbricks. I'm Chris and welcome to LEGO Mini Reviews, the show where I review a ton of different LEGO vintage and new sets right here on the Duckbricks YouTube channel in a short form format. So I have a ton of Bricklink orders to get through as well as just associated LEGO purchases, and I figured instead of making a mega video where I go through every single one that's hours long, why not break it up into separate mini reviews? And so in addition to our normal 3 videos a week schedule, be sure to stay tuned for a mini review dropping every single day where we do not normally have a standard video releasing. I hope you enjoy, and let's jump right into our first pick. Alright, so here on the list is the Imperial Star Destroyer from 2006. This was one of the only Playscale style Star Destroyers I did not already own. For whatever reason, I just never got a chance to pick it up. I did own all of the other ones, like the 2014 version and even some of the later ones, but this one was one that had remained elusive up until now. So what was really interesting while building this and putting it together was just kind of looking at what sorts of building techniques stayed the same when LEGO was evolving the concept of these large Playscale style Star Destroyers, and what things are completely different, and honestly what would not be used in any sort of model today just because how flimsy it is. You see, 2006 was kind of this era of LEGO where they were being very experimentative in terms of how they were actually putting stuff together, but that also meant that they were actually releasing a ton of sets that were incredibly flimsy, would break apart very easily, and had some very dubious connections. And there certainly are a lot of those here. One thing that I actually really enjoy is a look at almost like a prototype Flickfire missile. This was before LEGO made the Flickfire missile piece, so they were really trying to come up with all sorts of crazy solutions, which you can see here is this. So pushing this very hard sort of makes a lightsaber blade fall out. It does not work very well at all. It's honestly kind of funny seeing how they were really trying to have, I guess that works. So that really worked. Flicking it worked quite well, but some sort of a shooter function in their sets. This is not held in at all. If you tilt the Star Destroyer down, it will just fall out, but kind of funny to see what they were experimenting with in the early days before the Flickfire missile's advent. I do not really like how obvious it is. It's a very large red pin sticking right out of the side, so that kind of takes me out of the model a little bit, but there's just a lot of very interesting things here that also stayed pretty much the same when we're talking about modern Star Destroyers. Now, much like many of the modern ones, this has a full interior. Let's actually open this up right here. This does have a latch on the back, which allows you to open it up. You just have to move the latch upwards, and you can take the entire thing out. So this is a very interesting, almost somewhat over-engineered mechanism to remove it here. It's a big mess of different Technic beams and latches and rubber bands and whatnot. And if you wanted to, you can even move this part outwards on the bridge, which you can see right here, but we'll take a look at that later on. So once we're inside, the panels fully open up, much like the modern Star Destroyers. Let's just do that right now. Open these up right here, and these two open up as well in the very front, but they don't really reveal anything. That just reveals a button to press. So here you can see the full interior of the Star Destroyer. Now, to show this a little bit clearer, let's raise up the camera just a tad here, tilt ourselves down, really get into this. A lot of empty space, which is pretty surprising. Normally in a set like this today, you'd see at least a little bit more detail than this, some computer terminals perhaps. Now, this being said, there were no stickers included in the set that I got that were not already pre-applied, so maybe there were supposed to be some other stickers here and there that I just didn't get a chance to see. One thing I do like is the usage of these particular panel pieces to act as the insides of the hallways. They don't really add a ton of different texture, but I do like the way that they look, and it definitely does feel like a Star Destroyer hallway. This is also a very fun feature of the Emperor Palpatine or Darth Sidious hologram right here, which just swings back and forth almost like it's being projected from a surface like this. And then over here, we have a bit of a weapons rack. It's kind of an odd way of mounting it, but this is supposed to slide back and forth as some sort of a changing area or whatnot. I believe it's what it's supposed to be, and you're supposed to put some weapons right there. Now, over here, we have the Darth Vader meditation chamber, probably the most simple form of meditation chamber we have ever gotten, but it does include this particular sliding piece here to grasp his helmet and lift the helmet off of him. And then this all opens up to reveal Darth Vader himself. Now, I did buy this particular set without minifigures because I do already own all the figures, and it was a lot cheaper without figures, so I don't have them in there right now, but you can kind of see the gist of how that works. Now, one of my favorite functions is this escape pod. You can
pushes here and it launches the escape pod into this hole. If it was flying, it would just go straight through, as you can see right here, and come right out the bottom. So that's really great to see. Love that little feature there. Definitely means that the bottom of the base is not really built all too strongly. It's kind of a little finicky in the way that it's set up, but obviously this was a set from the 2006 era, so it's pretty much to be expected. Now, after all this folds up, which surprisingly works very similarly to some of the mechanisms today, we can now step back and look at how the upper bridge section works. So let's just readjust our camera here and get this all the way back set up like so. So let's just plop us down here. Now, this part of the bridge basically just kind of sits there. Nothing really too crazy going on with this front part. The back part, however, does fully open up. As you can see right here, this whole thing just slides open, which is a feature I really like, which reveals the cockpit inside. So inside here, you can actually see there's a lot of nice decals for the stickers on the cockpits here on the sides of the walls, different decals there, just to mimic just a single officer standing up there giving some commands. So that is a feature that I do appreciate, and how easy it is to close up as well. One thing that I am not the biggest fan of is just how obvious they made it. They really tried to highlight every single feature with red. So you literally have a red thing saying, pull me right here, pull this handle to open, which I really don't think was very necessary. Of course, you've got the red handle back here, but the most egregious is this here. Still, that being said, I am very happy to finally have the Star Destroyer that has been missing from my collection be part of my collection for the first time in a long time, and I'm very happy to be able to eventually hang this up with all of the other Star Destroyers on my wall.
Alright, so from this angle, you can just barely see the 2006 Star Destroyer all the way up in the top right corner of the screen there. I have it hung up next to all of the other Star Destroyers, which you can see above my head, and I am so happy to have added this to my collection. But now it is time to complete this review and give my final thoughts. I think that currently the price might be a little bit high for especially what you get, because this was really the template and the baseline for better Star Destroyer builds in the future. Say the 2014 one, for example, is a much better evolution of the build compared to this. And this did have some quirks and oddities, like the weird kind of classic Lego space windscreens in gray kind of on the back of the ship, but it also had some really cool stuff like the Darth Vader meditation chamber, which was actually built into the ship itself. All in all, it is a pretty average set, obviously not quite as sturdy as you would expect some of the more modern Star Destroyers to be, but definitely a good start and a really cool look at what LEGO was starting off with and what they were experimenting with while trying to come up with a template for sets like this. But that concludes the mini review. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Subscribe for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon, and bye-bye for now.